remember, the ego wants to control, but the key is to trust the fact that whoever created us is going to be there for us. And I know that too. I know that whatever happens needs to happen, and it will just be what needs to be. And that's just the only thing we can do sometimes, right? So today I wanted to talk about the fight of the ego. Now, what do I mean? When we go through spiritual awakening, this is inevitably what is happening to all of us, and it will happen to all of us, okay? It's not something you can avoid. The only question is to what extent in this lifetime, and to what pace has your soul chosen to experience this. Essentially what that is when we go through a spiritual awakening, we have an ego self and then we have a higher mind self. And the ego self is the one that wants to control everything, right? The ego self is the one that wants to have the power. It's the thinking mind, right? The ego self is the one that goes saying that it knows better, it knows best, and it kind of tries to control everything. Now, what happens is that in order for us to truly evolve, we have to listen to our higher mind, our higher selves. But what happens is that ego wants to stay safe. And because our human mind is limited, we are not able to truly understand our higher selves from the ego perspective. So what really needs to happen in order for us to truly listen to our higher selves, to truly get in tune with them, we have to relinquish all fear, and we have to also learn to give up control, the conscious control of the outcome, because we don't know what's going to happen. And the thing about the ego is that it always needs to know. So essentially what needs to happen is our ego needs to be subdued, and it needs to be kind of like in a place where it's either friends or kind of like giving up to the higher self. And this is a really weird thing to explain, but it's happening to all of us in a way that when something painful happens, right, we're thrown in this state where we kind of feel bad about ourselves, but it's only because we identify with our ego. But essentially what happens is that we go through these demeaning experiences that put us down, and that demeaning experience is the lowering down of the ego. So it's kind of something that's downgrading, something that's difficult, painful, where you really see the fact that the human mind does not have the full power. It does not have the full control. It does not understand everything, and it is not actually able to go through life just on its own. Now, the whole idea of the ego fight is that the ego is fighting to survive. It wants to stay safe. It wants to control everything, right? And what's happening is that our higher selves are basically subduing that, because if we are to truly evolve, we have to listen to our hearts, not our mind. If you go through from 3D to 5D, the consciousness shift that is currently happening on Earth, the three-dimensional selves are the ones that are mostly powered by the fear, thought, worry. The fifth dimensional selves are powered by their heart, and they call the fifth dimension like heaven on earth, where no fear or worry exists. But that is only possible through complete submission of the ego, because again, the ego is the one that is trying to control everything. So this is inevitably happening to all of us, because we all go through this. The only question is to what pace in this lifetime and to what speed. But I feel like right now what's happening is that more and more of us are going through this a lot faster. So what that means is these crazy circumstances in life where you are really between like a rock and a hard stone, where you can't do anything, and that really puts you in a place of complete submission and just loss of everything, and the only thing you have is faith. And I learned that faith is only born when you literally have nothing else. There's nothing. Like for me personally, it was when I was first, like I was in one state in Connecticut, and I was going to Arizona, and I got a one-way ticket, because I already know I'm living in Arizona, I just don't know how yet. So I got a one-way ticket there, and basically what happened was that I was drunk, but when I was drinking back then, I was like, okay, well, drunk self is my subconscious self. So she wanted a ticket, she got a ticket, so I guess I'm going. But I had nothing. I had no money that day. I had nothing. All I had was a ticket. I was like, how am I supposed to go across country to a place I don't know anything about, with no money, with no one that I know of, with no security, with no job, with nothing? And all I had was faith, and it turned out okay because I was able to work online, and my mom helped me at first, and then, so I made it. But the thing is that, like, I had to have that complete just faith because I had nothing. I had nothing. My mind could not see anything, and like I was actually freaking out because I was like, I never flew on my own before. Okay, I had no security. I didn't know anyone. I was like, well, what's going to happen to me? But that was okay. That was actually not bad at all. Right now, I'm looking back at it, I'm like, that was like sunshine and rainbows. But basically, what happens is that faith is only born when we have nothing else. And we go through this because through doing that, through having nothing else and developing faith, we kind of let go of that control, and it also lets down the ego, because I had a very strong ego because I was like, I always have to know everything. I had to control everything. Okay, I was a physics major. I have to know everything. Like, everything has to be planned out. So for someone whose everything has to be planned out, to go like that, I was like internally shaking the whole time. But that was basically kind of putting me down as well, to the fact that I have to trust, because we don't know all the answers. But it's happening to all of us. And the thing is that I feel like right now, maybe I'm feeling it more, where what does the universe have to do to you for you to feel like you are literally grateful to exist? I don't mean to have a home. I'm grateful to have a home, okay? But that's a step up. I don't mean to be able to speak, or that's all a step up. I mean literally exist, to be aware. So it's like we go through pain and we go through fear in order to, by polarity, learn to appreciate life. I had this insight earlier today that the reason for fear is for us to learn to appreciate life, for us to learn to appreciate the given moment, and for us to really integrate all of life. But it really depends on how much fear do we have to go through, and the higher the ego, the greater the fear. And I didn't know the reason for any of this before. I was like, well, why is life doing this to me? Like, it's not even the body. Like, I lost everything. Okay, like everything. I don't mean home. I mean, I lost a home. Okay, and then I lost my phone, and then I didn't even have teeth for a while. Okay, I'm a 20-year-old female in college, didn't have a front tooth. Okay, that's like, why? And then that was not even bad. And then it was like, on top of all of that, it kind of made me disidentify from my body. And then it's like I went through a whole bunch of crazy stuff post college too. Like, in the matter of the last half a year, I don't know what happened. It's just like all of life was like, okay, this is taking too long. Let's just dump everything on her, and let's just like, yeah, dump everything on this person at once because she's taking too long to wake up. I don't know, something like that. But basically, it was like all of that, all of the body control, everything. Because I was like, at first I was like drugged and abused, and then I didn't really have a home. I had nothing. I lost all of my friends. I broke my phone like 3 times. Okay, it's like, if I wanted to get in contact with people I knew from before, I literally got no means to do it. So I got nobody at some point, and it was like, it was just, I had like nothing except just faith that, I'll make it. I feel like any normal person in my space would no longer be here today. Somehow I'm still here, but yeah. So I feel like the whole point of everything that is happening is just to go through that. And maybe right now, for whatever reason, I'm experiencing it more, the fact that it's really this internal shaking feeling of just being grateful to exist, because you just know what it's like not to exist. Like, when you are so aware of what it's like to just not exist, and it's not something I think most have even experienced. Again, I don't know, but I didn't do it through psychedelics or any of the uh, spirit medicine. I only took mushrooms a couple times, but it was never I feel like I'm always on mushrooms. Like I took it like 3 times, I think, for major trips or two, but it's like I barely took that stuff, so I experienced everything just cold sober. So it's like you go through this internal annihilation and just destruction of your whole reality, like your whole reality shattered. So you go through these like series of crazy events in order to establish the fact that the ego really has no control. We have no control. Like the whole thing going on right now, I think people are put into a place of fear, first to acknowledge life, to be grateful for it, but also because it's really the fact that we're not okay with not having control. But what's happening right now is very mild because most of us go through this crazy internal battle. And like I've met people who have gone through that too. Like they think they're going crazy because they think the devil is after them and all that. And it's like that fear and all of that stuff. Like you are not crazy. None of us is crazy, but this is being happening to us because basically the whole thing of our growth is that we have an ego and a higher self. And the higher self is the one that's really aware of everything. It knows everything. The ego knows basically nothing. And so we have to go through this thing to let go of the ego control. And I've seen this happen, and kind of like even when Jesus was crucified, right? But he chose that. But it's like I'm only mentioning that as example because it's a complete giving up of control to the level where you trust the universe to the max. And I feel like this is happening to me too, where I'm like, I feel like it's almost like I serve the universe. Like this is such a weird thing to even say. Like, am I crazy or what? But at the same point, it's like when you go through all the stuff, you're like, well, I guess I'm crazy. Maybe that's why people commit suicide so much sometimes because they feel like they're going crazy. And it's almost like the ego wants to control, and that's their version of control because they're unable to comprehend letting go of the ego. Because essentially what we have to do is we have to let go of that control of the fact that we think we know everything because we don't. There's so many things that I don't know, and I have to just accept the fact that if something happens in my life, well, then I just have to accept it and be grateful because at least I exist. It's like it beat me down to that level where I'm like, well, if I lost everything, at least I exist. So it's like, yeah, I don't actually wish that upon anyone, but I feel like this is happening to all of us, and it is in a way inevitable. So it's kind of just a matter of really knowing that whatever is happening for a reason, and it's just a matter of non-resisting, because I'm realizing now too that it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens, because what happens is not up to us. What happens is not up to me. Like what happens when my next is literally not up to me. Like I have no idea what's going to happen to me in like a week or less than a week. I'm like, I know I'm here until the end of the week. That's all I know. That is literally all I know. Like I have no I have a feeling I'm not gonna be here in a week. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how. I don't know nothing. And I have to be okay with that because I've been through stuff where I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna have a roof over my head the next day, and I didn't even know anyone anywhere near it. And like I literally at that time had no phone. I had nothing. I had nobody. I was like, well, if I don't trust the universe, and it just like it's not up to me. If it doesn't go my way and I don't have where to sleep the next night, then I just don't have where to sleep the next night. Like it's not up to me. But we try to control, and the key is that we suffer because of that. We create our own suffering to try to control, because when we go through these crazy circumstances and a lot of pain and just stress, we really get to establish the fact that, yeah, we don't have control. We can't do anything. And that's just, it's something that the ego doesn't want to accept, okay? But we all have an ego, and so we all go through that, and the ego just needs to, I guess, be friends with the higher self, but in a way, it's kind of like taming it. I don't even know. I just know that this is happening to all of us, and it is inevitable, and it's just a matter of understanding that the main thing to do is just let go of all fears and just trust. And that's something I have to do right now too, because I have to just trust. And I'm like sitting here like, well, like I know what I need to do, but I don't have any control of the circumstances or the outcome, or literally anything. I just know that I'll be okay, I'll make it. I have a backup plan if I need to, but it's like, yeah. I think now it's a lot easier actually than it was before, but maybe it's just hitting me now. I don't know, because I've never actually talked about my full life, because before at some point I was like, yeah, I don't want to talk about my past because if I think about my past I want to start crying. I was like, after I got drugged and whatever. And then it's like, now I look back, when I look back later, I was like, well, this is like, I would be very thankful to be there because I went through so much worse later. And I was like, this is okay, you know? So, yeah, I don't know the point of this. I have no point in this. I just needed to get that out. Sometimes things just need to get out, okay? It's like video diary. I don't even know. Anyway, thanks for listening. Even if I'm the only one listening to this, but yeah, just remember, the ego wants to control, but the key is to trust the fact that whoever created us is going to be there for us, and I know that too. I know that whatever happens needs to happen, and it will just be what needs to be, and that's just the only thing we can do sometimes, right?